In exactly 8 hours, a $55,000 plywood drone is going to crash Russia's economic motherboard. The FP-1 is traveling 994 miles to turn the billion-dollar Ministry of Economic Development into a pile of burning invoices. It's the ultimate International Women's Day gift, showing Moscow that their economic security is as thin as a sheet of wood. 2:30 hours. The FP-1 is navigating the final suburban barriers of the Moscow Oblast. Having maintained a flight profile of exactly 130 feet for over 7 hours, the plywood airframe is now entering the most treacherous phase of the mission, the Moscow Urban Canyon. The math of low-altitude flight in a major city is a nightmare of fluid dynamics. As the FP-1 passes between two 40-story residential towers, it hits a localized urban wind tunnel, a 45-mile-per-hour gust created by the pressure differential between the buildings. The 300-pound plywood airframe is slammed sideways, banking 30 degrees toward a wall of glass. In the Kyiv bunker, cold sweat breaks out on the operator's forehead as the building facade fills his entire screen. For a heartbeat, the mission is inches away from becoming a tragic accident in a suburban apartment block. But the proprietary AI navigation suite reacts faster than any human pilot. It detects the lateral drift in milliseconds and executes a sudden 4.5 G corrective bank, pulling the FP-1 away from the concrete just 25 feet before impact. It is a masterclass in autonomous rerouting, but this sudden maneuver comes with a heavy tactical price. By banking sharply at a high angle, the drone momentarily exposes its flat top surface to the sky, significantly increasing its radar cross-section. 3 miles away, a Russian Pantsir-S1 station, previously scanning for high-altitude threats, detects a single 3-second flicker on its display. It is just enough to trigger an automated tracking alert. The blind giant has just heard a noise in the dark, and Moscow's fortress is about to wake up. The operator in Kyiv watches his screen as the first red detection warning begins to pulse. The Uber ride just got a whole lot more complicated. 2:35 hours. Inside a mobile command van parked near the Moscow Ring Road, a Russian air defense technician leans back in his seat sipping lukewarm coffee. He is staring at a screen that has been blank for 3 years. To him, Moscow is an impenetrable sanctuary, a high-tech fortress shielded by layers of S-400 and Pantsir-S1 batteries. He believes he is guarding a museum, not a combat zone. But that belief is exactly 87 seconds away from being shattered. Suddenly, the flicker from the urban wind tunnel bank translates into a hard-track lock on his console. The automated 1RS-2E radar of a nearby Pantsir-S1 unit has identified a low-altitude anomaly. With a mechanical scream, the $12 million defense system slews its turret toward the city center. A 57E6 surface-to-air missile erupts from its canister, accelerating to Mach 3 in less than 2 seconds. It is a $300,000 interceptor designed to kill high-tech NATO cruise missiles, and it is now chasing a $55,000 piece of plywood through the Moscow suburbs. In the Kyiv bunker, the mission operator sees the thermal bloom of the launch on his screen. "Interceptor away, terminal threat," he shouts. But he doesn't pull up. Instead, he executes a maneuver that exploits the primary flaw of Russian radar, the Earth's curvature. He drops the FP-1 from 130 feet to just 65 feet, skimming the roofs of parked cars and low-rise commercial buildings. By dropping this low, the drone effectively vanishes into the ground clutter, a chaotic sea of radar echoes from trees, power lines, and concrete. To the Pantsir's computer, the FP-1 hasn't just moved, it has ceased to exist. The Mach 3 missile, unable to differentiate the drone from a nearby billboard, continues its ballistic flight until it self-destructs over an empty industrial park. The Russian technician is left staring at his screen in total confusion, wondering if he just shot at a ghost. However, the mission isn't safe yet. As the FP-1 enters the dense urban mist rising from the Moskva River, the moisture begins to interfere with the optical inertial sensors. The blind giant has been dodged, but the wooden ghost is now flying through a gray void where its digital eyes are beginning to fail. The math for the final 5 miles has just become a gamble against a total blackout. 2:40 hours. The electronic landscape of central Moscow suddenly shifts from an invisible web into a total blackout. The Russian Ministry of Defense activates their sledgehammer, the R330 Zhitel electronic warfare suite. This is a high-powered jamming system designed to flood every GPS and radio frequency with 10 kilowatts of noise. turning the sky over Wartime Yamskaya into a digital graveyard. In the Kiev bunker, the mission operator's screen instantly dissolves into gray static. The signal lost alarm screams through the room. This is the moment where most drones fall out of the sky, but for the FP1, this was the plan from the beginning. Ukraine's proprietary AI navigation suite, developed in a basement for a fraction of a military contractor's budget, now takes full command. Since it can't hear the satellites, the FP1 switches to inertial navigation combined with AI terrain matching. It uses its onboard camera to look at the gray silhouettes of the buildings and matches them against a 3D digital map of Moscow stored in its memory. To finish the checkmate, the Ukrainian team executes a calculated sacrifice. 5 miles away, a secondary, even cheaper decoy drone, a basic plywood frame with a massive radar reflector, suddenly pops up to an altitude of 300 feet. It is a $50 pawn designed to distract a $100 million queen. The Pantsir-S1 radar, optimized to prioritize high-altitude targets, immediately locks onto this loud phantom signature. The Russian operators, desperate for a kill, launch 2 more 57E6 missiles. They are so busy punching their own face trying to swat a wooden decoy that they don't notice the real striker, the 132-pound TNT payload creeping along the Moskva River just 20 feet above the water. 44 hours. The electronic noise over the Moskva River has become a physical wall. The Russian GPS spoofing is so intense that the FP1's internal clock begins to drift, causing the drone to dip dangerously low. Its wingtips are now just 15 feet above the freezing water, nearly clipping the surface. In the Kiev bunker, the mission commander's heart is in his throat as the altimeter flickers. If the plywood touches the water, $55,000 and months of planning vanish into the dark. The system immediately switches to full inertial mode, but the urban mist has turned into a thick gray soup. The AI terrain matching algorithm, blinded by the fog, misidentifies a neo-Stalinist skyscraper as a bridge. The FP1 banks hard, heading directly for a 500-foot wall of reinforced concrete. Cold sweat is pouring down the operator's neck as he watches the collision imminent warning flash. Autonomous override! Initiate the ghost turn protocol! This is the Ukrainian ace in the hole. The FP1 executes a pre-programmed blind climb and a violent 90-degree snap turn away from the river. Instead of following the predictable water route, it ducks into a narrow side street, flying below the level of the streetlights. It is a tactical masterclass in autonomous rerouting. By abandoning the river, the drone completely bypasses a Pantsir-S1 unit that the Russian Ministry of Defense had specifically placed on a luxury rooftop to cover the water approach. The blind giant just lost the scent. Sensing the sudden movement, a long-range S-400 battery on the outskirts of Moscow panics. They launch a 40N6 interceptor, a Mach 14 monster designed to hit targets 250 miles away. It screams over the Moscow skyline, its rocket motor lighting up the clouds. But in a stroke of pure dramatic irony, the missile's seeker head locks onto the burning thermal wreckage of the decoy we established in Step 3. The $1.5 million interceptor vaporizes a piece of plywood that was already falling to the ground. The massive explosion creates a cloud of electronic and thermal debris that effectively masks the real FP1 for its final 3-mile sprint. In the Kiev bunker, the suffocating tension breaks into a jagged laugh. They just spent the price of a private jet to kill a piece of a shipping crate, a technician mutters, wiping his forehead. The Russian defenders are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, firing at their own shadows, while the FP1 smirks its way through the gap created by their own panic. Here is a tactical question for you. If you were the Russian commander, how would you fix a defensive system that is currently prioritizing $5 plywood over a 100-pound TNT warhead? Tell me your solution in the comments. The wooden ghost is now less than 120 seconds from the target, and the Kremlin's economic brain is about to meet its maker. 48 hours. The mission has reached its terminal 10 miles. The FP1 is no longer hiding, it is sprinting. The Russian High Command, finally realizing the wooden ghost is within striking distance of the capital's economic heart, initiates a last-ditch scorched sky protocol. A long-range S-400 battery on the outskirts of Moscow launches its final 40N6 interceptor. This Mach 14 monster screams through the clouds, its rocket motor illuminating the Wartime Yamskaya district like a second sun. But the FP1 executes a desperate course correction, diving into the narrow canyon of the Moskva River and banking hard around a bend. The S-400 seeker head, designed to hit high-altitude jets, cannot compensate for the rapid changes in ground-level geometry. The $1.5 million missile slams into the riverbank, sending a massive shockwave through the water but missing the plywood drone by less than 50 feet. For the Russian defenders, it is like watching a horror movie. They know the ending, but they are powerless to stop the credits from rolling. The FP1 has just proven that a $55,000 startup weapon can make a billion-dollar defense network look like a prehistoric relic. 250 hours. The impact is a masterclass in kinetic and chemical destruction. The mission operator in Kiev feels his entire body go light, as if the weight of 3 school buses has been lifted off his chest, as the FP1 enters its terminal dive at 112 miles per hour. The 132-pound TNT warhead doesn't just explode. It performs a surgical restructuring of the Ministry of Economic Development. The physics of the strike are brutal. The 300-pound plywood airframe provides enough kinetic energy to punch through the skyscraper's glass and reinforced concrete facade. Once inside, the TNT detonates, generating an overpressure wave of 1,000 pounds per square inch. In a confined office environment, this pressure treats load-bearing pillars and structural steel like they are made of brittle plastic. The blast creates a massive chain reaction, igniting server rooms and document archives. It is the ultimate International Women's Day gift for the Kremlin, an 18-story pillar of fire that changes the geography of Moscow's financial district in less than a second. The aftermath is a total economic blackout for the Russian administrative machine. Preliminary satellite data indicates that 80% of the ministry's headquarters has been rendered structurally unsound. The estimated financial loss, including high-end hardware, lost data, and building replacement, is upwards of $500 million. But the real strategic damage is far worse. By destroying the brain center of Russia's manipulated GDP and wartime planning, Ukraine has effectively blinded Putin's ability to lie about the true cost of his invasion. The lesson here is one the Kremlin will be studying for decades. Never underestimate an opponent who can turn a sheet of plywood and a cheap engine into a $100 million headache. While the Russian Ministry of Defense tries to explain why their billion-dollar nuclear umbrella failed to stop a wooden drone, the Ukrainian military is already prepping the next gift. Ukraine didn't just win a tactical engagement, they changed the economic math of the entire war. Moscow is in shock. Putin's ego just took a $55,000 hit that will cost him $500 million to repair. This was the detail most people missed. The sheer intelligence of the Ukrainian rerouting was what truly changed the game. It was the perfect early March 8th bouquet, delivered with 132 pounds of TNT. What do you think? Was this strike the final nail in the coffin for Russia's impenetrable reputation, or just a very expensive reminder that Moscow is now a frontline city? Let me know in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe to see which Russian ministry gets its audit next. Bye for now.